Dear friends, gathered in this hall are representatives of 99% of world Jewry, 99%. The other 1% we can't find. We have come from 72 different countries to celebrate the astonishing success of the Jewish people and to address changes we face. We are here to stand by Israel, to stand by the Jews, the diaspora. Let me open with a personal word. I was born in a prosperous New York in 1944, but at the same time in Europe, cattle cars were still taking Jews to death camps and gas chambers. Had I been born in Budapest in 1944, where my grandparents came from, rather than in Manhattan, I would have been one of the 1.5 million Jewish children killed by the Nazis. I wouldn't be here. However, during my lifetime, the Jewish people have risen from the ashes and performed amazing miracles. Here in the Promised Land, we have revived Jewish sovereignty after 2,000 years. And throughout the free world, we have established a nearly perfect diaspora. We have seen our people come back from death to choose life. These are the miracles that are too often overlooked, and we should remember them. For the past 18 years, you have allowed me to lead the World Jewish Congress. I have visited hundreds of communities. I think I've almost visited every community that's here. I have built Jewish schools, supported Jewish life, and witnessed the wonderful Jewish Renaissance. But today, I'm deeply worried. I see old threats coming back and new threats emerging. Never before in my life have I been so concerned regarding the future of the Jewish people. Exactly 80 years ago, this month, Nazi Germany surrendered, and the Holocaust came to an end. The most horrifying calamity in the history of the Jewish people was over. But in May 1945, no one could have imagined that May 2025 we'd be standing here in a rebuilt Jerusalem, the capital of a strong and prosperous Jewish state. What the Jewish people have achieved during the last 8 decades, during my lifetime, is no less than a wonder. We rose from the ashes. We built great enterprises. And also the Jewish Renaissance. But on October 7, 2023, the Jewish world came under attack once again. Vicious terrorists kidnapped citizens, raped women, murdered children, and burned whole families alive. Israel responded to this disaster with such bravery. The IDF struck Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. The courage of Israel's fearless soldiers saved the nation, allowing us to gather here today. But at this great gathering, I would like to speak to you about another offense against the Jewish people that is endangering us all. I want to speak to you about the diplomatic, public relations, and educational warfare that is being carried out against Israel and Jews everywhere. At the beginning of the 21st century, our enemies understood they could not defeat us in the battlefield. So they decided to attack Israel in a political, public relations, and education area. That was our weak point, our Achilles heel. And they were very clever about it. For 3 decades, they have invested billions of dollars in a campaign against Israel and the Jews throughout the entire educational and public relations system. From kindergarten to universities and across the media, they have brainwashed an entire generation and convinced them that Israel is a genocidal apartheid state. Their goal was threefold: to destroy Israel, to destroy the Jews, and destroy Western civilization. Like the Iron Curtain that descended upon Europe in 1946, the Iron Curtain has now descended on the West in the 21st century. But this time, it's not made up of watchtowers and barbed wire fences. It is based on the recruitment of intellectuals and teachers to demonize Israel and the Jewish people. And it starts as early as kindergarten, where children are taught that Israel and Jewish people are evil. Young children are being brainwashed. This has been going on for 20 years, and no one knew anything about it. Jewish teachers who raised their voices were fired. Sadly, we did not see this new Iron Curtain as was being constructed. We did not understand just how dangerous this educational, diplomatic, and public relations offensive was to the legitimacy of Israel's existence. Just as Israel failed to anticipate Hamas's surprise assault, we failed to anticipate the all-out offensive on the mindset of the free world. Because of this, Israel didn't have just the attack on October 7th. The entire Jewish world was attacked on October 8th. On October 8th, we all expected the world's support. But we were surprised that much of the world, too much of the world, supported Hamas. This came from the culmination of the previous 25 years of the diplomatic, educational, and public relations offense against Israel. Our enemy's sophistication and our own blindness allowed invisible forces of evil to surround us and to wage a sustained, non-military campaign. But this campaign is not only against Israel, it's against all of us, and in most of the countries in which we all live. Since October 7th, we have experienced a wave of anti-Semitism, the likes of which we have not known since before 1945. So, when we ask ourselves, what can we do? We must start here. First, diplomacy. Israel needs strong diplomats, trained to defend the Jewish state. There should be a special school for diplomacy named after Abba Eden to train a new generation of articulate and professional diplomats. This new generation of diplomats should be based solely on expertise and not on politics. I must tell you, during the COVID and afterwards, it was the World Jewish Congress that was going from country to country because many of the diplomats were not there, and the ones that were there were not trained necessarily in what to do. Secondly, public relations, Hasbara. The war today is not just on the battlefield. It's being waged throughout social media and the press. And Israel has no voice defending it. If Israel used just some of its money on public relations, it would make a world of difference. I cannot understand why Israel during this time had no spokesman to defend Israel. Israel's enemies should no longer define the narrative. It's time for Israel to lead the narrative. Third, and perhaps most important, education. At the beginning of the 21st century, Israel's enemies spent billions of dollars on schools across the globe. They began with the takeover of Middle East studies departments in colleges, and then expanded from kindergartens to grade schools to high schools, all the way through universities. They also infiltrated think tanks, soft media, as well as many news outlets throughout the world. We have survived in the diaspora for 2,000 years by concentrating on the education of our sons and daughters. I myself provide education for 40,000 Jewish children in schools throughout Eastern and Central Europe. That is what is needed now, is a new project for the Jewish people to educate millions of children, Jewish and non-Jewish. We will have to go school by school to remove the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic teachers and administrations. This will not be an easy task, but the World Jewish Congress in 40 countries around the world is still the one organization that should be at the forefront of this endeavor. So today, let us all call for a Jewish revival based on education. Education, education, education. In America, we actually saw one leader finally defend the Jewish people in this regard. I want to thank President Trump for withholding federal funds to colleges and universities. On October 8th, when this started, there was no reaction from the White House. And all the things happening on schools, universities, and kindergartens, no one reacted. He was the only president who had the courage to do this, and what courage it took. And we saw the change, what's happening. The World Jewish Congress was founded in Switzerland in 1936, when 12 patriotic Jews came together in Geneva in an effort to warn the world of the impending catastrophe. And the world did not listen. Today I stand in front of you warning of a new catastrophe. And we will not be silent. After the annihilation of our people during the Holocaust, and after the massacre of our people in the Western Negev just 20 months ago, we might now become pariahs, outcasts, undesirables. The delegitimate of Israel may imperil its very existence. In order not to be surprised and endangered again, we must act now. I'm asking every country here to look at your education system, see what has to be done, find out who's there and who's not there, and what can be done, and get back to us and what you need. The World Jewish Congress, these people who say we're fighting anti-Semitism, it's like we're fighting evil. We don't fight anti-Semitism. We fight it by going after schools, social media, everything we can to fight this. We need to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to get this done. It can be done. And one of the great things we have today is we have the World Jewish Congress. All of you today, each one of you, and many of you I've spoken to already about this, can make a difference. At the same time, we need something else. We need unity. Unity of the Orthodox, conservative, reform, and secular movements. I guess the word achdut is what we need. It's even the same word in Yiddish, achdush. Unity of the Jewish people. Unity in the Jewish world, and unity between the Jewish state and the Jewish diaspora. And let me tell you, I've seen very little going between the Jewish state and the Jewish diaspora. We must do everything we can to work together. And again, we need professional people doing this. Only if we work together can we ensure a common future. Only if we unite can we afford the challenges we face and secure peace. We have a saying in America, and it must be in every country: a house divided will not stand. The house of Israel must never be divided. Thank you very much for re-electing me. Over the last 40 years, I've had the great privilege to serving our people in every possible way. I did all I could to ensure our survival, our welfare, our strength, and our future. I will continue to do so for the next 4 years. My generation made a few mistakes, but my generation brought us from Auschwitz to Jerusalem. A people almost perished because became Am Yisrael Kai. Soon it will be your turn. When I look at you, I see a lot of young faces, and these are the people who will lead the next Jewish Renaissance. We shall defeat our enemies. We shall overcome the dangers we face. We shall strengthen Jewish identity by reviving Jewish education. We will give our people the security, prosperity, and peace they deserve. 4 months ago, I stood in front of more than 50 world leaders at the gates of Auschwitz for the 80th anniversary of the liberation of our greatest tragedy. One of the Auschwitz survivors there was a man named Michael Bornstein. I believe this one man personifies who we are as a people. Michael Bornstein and his fellow survivors did not seek revenge when they left a man-made hell. They did not descend into terror and make more death. They refused to see themselves as victims. Michael was there with his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and his great-grandchildren, 22 members of the Bornstein family, including doctors, lawyers, and teachers. That is the Jewish response to terror. In the face of death, they made new life. I'm sure their pain never went away. The memory of the lost must have followed survivors throughout their lives. But the joys of watching a baby grow, of celebrating birthdays, bar mitzvahs, weddings, and seeing more babies may have offset the pain. They must have all helped survivors move forward. And this ultimately says so much about who we are as a people. 80 years later, you see the same admirable Jewish trait right here in Israel. After everything this country has endured over the past 20 months, after all the funerals and the hostage still being held, despite all the loss, listen to this. The birth rate in Israel was 10% higher among all Israelis, at the end of 2024 than during the same period in 2023. Despite all the war in its 77-year history, Israel has always been on the top in the developed world birth rates, and those numbers continue this year. What inspires a population to have more children? A positive view of their country, a greater hope for the future, a sense of purpose and faith. Despite all the political divisions in Israel, and you have many, as well as the existential threats from outside, the Jewish response to hatred has always been unbounding courage, and that can be summed up in 4 simple yet profound statements. We are here. We have hope in our future. We are Jews, and we are not going anywhere. This is what all of us should telegraph to the entire world. We are here, we have hope, we are Jews, and we're not going anywhere. That's what I want to hold on to. And take back your communities. God bless all of you, and may God continue to bless and protect the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel. I say this at the end of all my speeches, but I never meant it more than it does right now. Am Yisrael Chai, people of Israel. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.